I think there is a good chance that Bitcoin has already bottomed this bear market and that it is going to be up from here. If that is the case, it will affect not only Bitcoin, but the crypto market as a whole. Of course, there are no guarantees, so stick to the end of the video to see the bear case. Now, what causes Bitcoin to go down? It's selling. Now, I know that's the obvious answer, but the very simple thing that we have to do is figure out, will there be more selling? It's a pretty complicated question, but I wanted to at least address the current situation. Okay, so let's look at what happened last cycle. Last cycle was very, very important because basically we had crashes because of these black swan events, such as FTX blowing up and some other things as well. Okay, now that's very interesting because now you have to ask yourself, what is going to cause another leg lower? A lot of people are saying they think Bitcoin will bottom in Q4, and I'm not going to say that's not a possibility. But what I will say is that if it does bottom in Q4, we're going to need something that propels us further down, something that causes more selling. And I think we have already seen the majority of selling. So on this tab here, I have the STRC chart. Why is that relevant? Because this move down on Bitcoin, this recent one, was pricing in the fact that MicroStrategy will now sell Bitcoin. You want to know what's interesting though is that when Michael Saylor announced they would consider selling, and then I think this moment somewhere here was when they sold like, I don't know, a couple million worth of Bitcoin, basically nothing. And we ran down a ton. We priced in the fact that they would be selling some of their Bitcoin sometime in the future. Okay? But then we actually saw very recently, we saw MicroStrategy actually sell like $500 million worth. So you might ask yourself, why did we go down so much here when they sold only a couple $1 million worth, but then here, wherever they sold here, we actually have gone up? Well, the answer is we were pricing in the move. So why is STRC relevant? Because the reason why they're selling is to fund their STRC payments, okay? And as you can see here, STRC went below levels that it has never gone to before, okay? It literally created an all-time low. It was not at par. If you want, you could do research and understand what that means, but it was not at par. It was significantly undervalued. Basically, people were pricing in the absolute worst case scenario. So I am bringing this up because I think that this situation is basically the FTX collapse of last cycle. It was something that caused forced selling or people to price in a very bad situation, which isn't actually going to play out in the future. I don't think MSTR is going to blow up. I don't think they're going to sell all of their Bitcoin like maybe we priced in here. We priced in definitely more than a couple $100 million worth of selling here. And yeah, that's what we saw with FTX. We priced in a very, very bad situation, and that's what caused the bottom. Now the question is, will we get another situation like that causes us to go lower? And I would say the chances are low. And I would say even if the chances are decent, it's pretty unpredictable. It's very unpredictable to see FTX crash. No one predicted FTX would crash. I think a lot of people didn't predict that Michael Saylor would be selling some Bitcoin here. Maybe it was a bit more predictable than the FTX collapse, but it was still pretty unpredictable. And we priced it in very largely. Okay? Now, when it comes to the bottom, what's going to cause us to go further down? That's the question we have to answer. Now, as I said, it's pretty unpredictable to, I guess, expect a black swan. We don't know if there's going to be a black swan. There could be, there might not be. Most likely, there's not going to be. If you look at just historically how often black swans happen, it's pretty rare. And if you're predicting it, it's probably a negative EV strategy. So basically, what is going to cause us to go lower? Well, I would argue the best case for Bitcoin going lower is the 4-year cycle pattern. The issue with a 4-year cycle pattern is that eventually it's going to break, and you could expect it to continue. But when we already have had something interesting happen last cycle that might have already broken the 4-year cycle, it makes me skeptical of using it for my big decisions, let's say. Okay, so when it comes to something like where we topped, I think we didn't reach a euphoria stage like we did in every other cycle before. Now that was one thing that was very interesting. Another thing, we didn't really see much rotation into altcoins. We've seen that in most of the previous cycle. We saw some sort of rotation. Okay, and then the next interesting point that I would like to make is that if you look at the yearly candles, last year was actually a red candle. Now I know my chart is green and green and blue, but we had a red candle here last year. 2026 or 2025, sorry, should have been an up year if we are following this pattern. The pattern is 3 green years and 1 red year. And we've seen that happen for a very long time in the Bitcoin history, right? But why did that not happen this time? Well, it very much signals, especially if you look at the yearly performance and the way Bitcoin performed all of last cycle, really, it was pretty weak. It didn't have that much performance. We had a very early run. Okay, wait. A couple things we have to go over. First things first is we hit a new all-time high before the halving. At that time, that was revolutionary. I remember all the 4-year cycle guys were telling everyone that, oh, we always hit a halving and then we hit an all-time high. Look at the history. These vertical lines are the halvings. Halving, and then we run and we hit all-time high. Okay, now we have the halving and then we run and hit all-time highs. We have a halving and then we run and hit all-time highs. Except this time, we actually hit a new all-time high before halving and then we continued to run after. So what does this signal? Well, this really signals that we ran pretty significantly before the halving even happened. And then we ran and we even may have topped before, I guess, early as well. We topped early as well. And if you think about this logically as well, this is basically the top here. We hit 110K, right? And then, yeah, we did hit 125K, but basically the 110K was the top and we just had like one leg higher. So what my whole point is with bringing this up is this cycle was relatively mild, okay? It wasn't that strong, that you had less returns, and now we might see something similar with the bear market. In the past bear markets, look at this, we had a 77% drop, okay? And then if you check each one, right, this one was about an 85% drop. And if you check this one, it was about 87% drop, okay? So it does keep shrinking. So you might say, okay, this is going to be like 77%, or it's going to be less than 77%, which would put us at 30K about, right? Let's say it's 75%. But there's also a good chance that it's way more conservative, considering the fact that the pump last cycle was also less strong. And we topped earlier, and we didn't have euphoria. So, of course, there is merit to the 4-year cycle continuing, and perhaps everyone thinks the 4-year cycle is going to continue, and because of that fact, maybe we don't get enough buyers to propel us forward and start a bull run until people are convinced that the 4-year cycle is officially over, and maybe by that time it is October. So maybe it is a fact that we will bottom in October. But honestly, with my current assessment of the market, I think buying at these levels here, I was buying below 60K quite heavily. I think 2x to the all-time high is pretty nice, and I think there's a decent chance that we just don't have another low. However, I do have cash on the side ready in case we go lower. I actually still have quite a bit of cash. So yeah, what I guess are the odds that I would say we are bottomed already? I would put it at about 50-50. Where did I get those numbers? I made them all up, but that's how I see it in my brain. And I truly think that there's a good chance we bottomed. Yes, we could go lower, but I'm not going to bank on it. If we do go lower, I will have money ready to buy, but there is a good chance that we have already bottomed, and you don't want to miss out. So I think you should definitely look at getting an allocation to whichever coins you want, whichever ones you're bullish on. I particularly like Bitcoin, and I'll make videos on the other ones that I like. But yeah, if we have truly bottomed, then you don't want to get screwed. There are lots of good traders that I know that are all waiting for a Q4 bottom. And I'm like, listen, I know you own some here. They were also preaching like buy some now, buy some later, but they could easily get cooked. And the market likes to cook everyone. So wouldn't it be pretty interesting if all those people that are preaching a 4-year cycle will continue and a Q4 bottom will happen, Imagine they all get wrecked. What would you do in that situation? So yeah, that's I guess the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let's see if this truly is a bottom. Only time will tell.